Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. Making top 5 lists for champions that are underrated, especially for mid lane, is always a lot of fun for me. Because I always feel like these lists aren't really strictly binded by the meta. I can go as free as I want with them, talk about virtually any champion that I want for the mid lane. Because again, these are champions that you don't normally see in the mid lane, or champions that just don't get played very often, but also have a lot of potential, and sometimes you might even question as to why they're not played very often. So all in all, these are always a lot of fun to make, and I hope you guys enjoy watching them as well. But right before we jump into the number 5 spot, the question of today's video is, what is your current sleeper OP champion in whichever role that you play? A champion that you play very well, but you almost never see anyone else play them. And if you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button to let me know. Alright guys, so let us get things started with the number 5 spot going to Jhin. Now usually when I do these lists, the number 5 spot always happens to be quite a wild card, something that you may not have expected, and I'm sure a lot of you maybe did not expect me to put Jhin. I will admit this is somewhat of a personal pick because I just absolutely love this champion and I have a lot of fun playing him mid lane, but on top of that, he's not a champion that I consider to be bad. In fact, I actually consider him to be quite decent, if not even good, in the mid lane. I mean, if you really think about it, he does fit the roles of a mid laner. He has a lot of damage, he has poke, he has a lot of roam potential thanks to his W and his ultimate. His wave clear is okay if you combine his Q and his E ability. Obviously it's not the best in the world, but it's really not the worst. There are plenty of entrances to gank from for the jungler into mid lane, but thanks to Jhin's traps, if you place them strategically, well, you can block off a lot of those options. Now something that I personally do whenever I play Jhin mid is I take Ignite, obviously with flash, and then I try to cheese the person I'm laning against by going for a very early first blood by level 2. By leveling my Q first, followed by the W, auto attacking until I have 2 shots left, and then I try going in for the kill. But other than that, I mean, I just think Jhin is a lot of fun to play in the mid lane. I do recommend at least trying it out, maybe in a normals with your friends. Take a go at it, especially if you like this champion and you play him as an AD carry, chances are you can do quite well in the mid lane. However, the negatives of Jhin mid is the fact that he does not have any escapes in his kit, so he is for the most part quite easy to gank even if you have really good traps placed down. He's obviously an AD champion, so you are not getting any AP damage in the mid lane, or at least not a lot of it. And he is a little bit of an unorthodox pick, but again, I personally enjoy the heck out of playing him in the mid lane. I personally think it's quite strong, so definitely recommend at least trying it out. And if you do try it out, then here are my recommended runes, items, masteries, and all that good stuff when playing Jhin mid. The build is still fairly standard, pretty much the same thing you would get if you were playing him in the bot lane. But for the runes, I like to go flat AD, reds, and quints again, just to help me out for that early first blood by level 2. But making our way to the number 4 spot, we'll be talking about Galio. This guy has to be the definition of underrated or sleeper OP champions in the mid lane because you almost never see him, but on the rare occasion you might see him, he just seems pretty annoying and strong. But he's still definitely worthy of mentioning, especially right now, because once patch 6.11 hits, I feel like he might be even a little bit better than he currently is, again because he obviously is pretty bad against AD champions, especially ones like Zed, maybe Taliyah. But now that Zed is getting nerfed, so chances are his play rate might go down by just a bit. Galio, obviously having a higher chance of facing an AP mid laner, which is what he wants to face, is going to be working out beautifully. Because if you don't know, Galio essentially just stacks the heck out of MR, which in turn also gives him bonus AP damage. His kit itself isn't really all that bad. I mean, he has good wave clear with his E and his Q ability. It has also some decent siege potential. He offers some decent utility for his team thanks to the move speed granted by his E, and he also has some fantastic CC potential again with the AoE slow on his Q, which is quite a hefty slow, and then you have his AoE taunt damaging ability. Now usually when you play Galio mid, you should almost definitely run teleport, but luckily for Galio, once you hit level 6, and especially if you have flash, making a teleport play either bot lane or mid lane or even maybe somewhere in the jungle can prove to be very effective, because you can just go in there, get the move speed going with your E, slow them down with your Q, pop that ultimate, and chances are you got yourself a kill. His ultimate is also very good in teamfights because again, getting the right targets or the right amount of targets can be the difference between maybe losing a fight or winning it decisively. And he's also very tanky because not only does he do a lot of damage, but he stacks MRs, so very hard to kill with AP champions. And also his W makes things even more difficult because on top of getting more resistances, he also gets HP back whenever the target with the W on it gets hit. But switching the pace by just a bit and looking at the negatives of Galio, he doesn't have any escapes in his kit as well. Not that he really needs them since he is kind of a tanky champion. His ultimate is fairly easy to counter, especially in higher elos when people can react to it, use champion abilities at the right time, or even QSS. And the fact that Galio does rely on his ultimate to make a lot of things happen, especially in team fights, can make things a little bit awkward. And he's not all that amazing against AD mid laners naturally just because he's pretty much designed to counter AP mid laners or AP champions. But either way, Galio definitely deserving of the number 4 spot, and if you ever decide to play him and try him out, then here are my recommended runes, items, and masteries. You can see that there's a trend here. You want to try and stack the heck out of magic resistance. MR is going to be your best friend when playing this champion, do not forget that. But let us move into champion number 3, Zilean. Now Zilean is one of the champions that I've almost always talked about whenever I make any of these underrated or sleeper OP videos. I don't know what it is about this champion, but I just almost never see him, but when I do see him, god, he is so annoying. His damage on his Q is actually really good, and I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense since he only technically has one damaging ability, but it seriously is really strong, especially if you get that double AoE stun, especially in a team fight. My goodness, that is gonna be absolutely brutal. And playing against a Zilean in the laning phase is also really annoying because what he's gonna be doing is just spamming the Q everywhere, whether putting it on minions and catching you off guard and you're gonna be taking the damage, putting a double Q on minions or on the ground and you're pretty much gonna be taking half HP, or zoning you out by throwing the bomb somewhere on the ground. Obviously in mid lane there isn't really a whole lot of room to move around, so he's going to be zoning you out from specific areas. Now whether he's trying to do that to make you move to a specific area because his jungler's coming in for a gank, or you're trying to CS but he's purposely zoning you off with his Qs, either of those, it can make things really difficult. He also provides fantastic utility for his team, offering great movement speed, the ability to revive a champion, especially in solo queue, which is really good because, well, I mean, it's solo queue. A lot of people are going to be dying for stupid reasons. Luckily for you, your ultimate essentially saves them and is like, you know what, you messed up, but here you go, another try. Or when you have that one really fed target that everyone on the enemy team is trying to kill, and once they finally maybe get to that target, they finally kill them, your ultimate gets them right back up, and chances are the enemy team is about to lose the fight. There's just a lot of things he can do. He has a lot of damage surprisingly with just one damaging ability. The stun on it, especially in a team fight, can win you the team fight. His ultimate is extremely difficult to play around, very similar to something maybe like a Kindred ult. He provides some surprisingly good wave clear with a double Q combo, and I mean, all in all, I think he's a really good champion, very underrated, definitely a sleeper OP, and I'm definitely still surprised that I do not see Zilean more often. However, the negatives of this old time traveler is the fact that just like every other champion so far, no escapes in his kit. His passive is somewhat useless when you're playing him in the mid lane until maybe your jungler or someone else comes to mid lane and you can finally use it. And his W can no longer be used to lower the cooldown on his ultimate. Now this isn't the worst thing in the world because to compensate for that, the base cooldown on his ultimate did get reduced, but it still kinda sucks. But either way guys, there you have it, Zilean taking the number 3 spot, and if you decide to play him and try him out, which I do recommend you at least try him, here's my recommended build when playing Zilean. CDR is pretty good of a stat for him, but essentially you just want to stack the hell out of AP while also being a little bit tanky if possible. But let's go into the number 2 spot, Taliyah, the newest champion in League of Legends, one that also has the lowest win rate in almost every single role that she can be played in. So with that being said, I'm sure a lot of you are surprised that I even have her here, especially all the way up in the number 2 spot. But let me try to explain. Personally, I believe Taliyah is actually a very strong champion. She's just extremely difficult and her playstyle is very unique. She's not someone you can just pick up and do well with. She does take a lot of practice, a lot of getting used to. Her ultimate obviously does not do any damage. It's strictly used for utility, whether that is to position yourself better or catch someone off by blocking the road path, or maybe when they're escaping with low HP and you just get up to them and finish them off. But the thing with her ultimate is the fact that it's really easy to mess up. It's extremely easy to put yourself in a bad scenario scenario, misuse it, die for almost no reason, and just pretty much be a hindrance for your team. But other than her ultimate, I feel like her laning phase is quite good because the range on her Q is fantastic. If you position the ward ground properly around the laning phase, you can make use of it really well. The damage on her E ability combined with her W is massive. She has insane catch potential again with her ultimate or her W. And I mean, I have to say, Taliyah is a lot stronger than everyone thinks she is. Trust me, she is a good champion. She just takes a lot of time and practice to get used to and understand. When playing her, try to remember this. She is not an assassin or a bursty mage. She has a lot of consistent damage, and even though she does have some decent bursts with her WE combo, that's not what you should always be playing her for. You should be playing her as a kiter, as a peeler, someone that can catch people off as well, because that is her playstyle. That's what she does. And if you get Rylai's Crystal Scepter, which you should, I mean, there's really no reason not to, you're just going to be doing your job that much better. So trust me when I say it, especially after a couple of small buffs here and there, she is a very good champion. She is 100% a sleeper OP, and once she becomes more popular, once people start getting the hang of her, I'm definitely predicting this champion to be a very strong one. But either way guys, if you decide to play a game with this champion, try her out. Even though apparently the win rate is absolutely horrendous, then here are my recommended items, runes, masteries, and everything you need to know. Rylai's Crystal Scepter is 100% a core item on her. Morello's is fantastic as well in the mid lane. And if they have a lot of dive potential or a lot of assassins, you should definitely get a Rod of Ages as your first item instead. And moving into the number 1 spot, I have to give it to Aurelion Sol. This guy I almost never see again. I have no idea why, but my goodness, he is strong, trust me. So after watching MSI, I remember Kuhi on CLG ended up pulling out the Aurelion Sol, and at first I was surprised. I'm like, wow, really? He's gonna pull him out? Interesting. I wonder how he does. And he ended up doing very well on Aurelion Sol, so after that I started being really curious as to why that was. What was he doing that I wasn't doing? And it turns out the answer was a lot more simple than I thought. You max your W first, you get your teleport summoner spell ready to go, and all you do is push in the lane from level 1 as fast as possible, back to base, go back to lane with your E or teleport, buy items, snowball the lane, push it in, and then start roaming once it hits 6. I tried it out and I have to say I was extremely pleasantly surprised. It just felt insanely stronger. It almost felt like I was playing another champion. I was really surprised by this too, because I feel like I didn't really change that much. I mean, all I did was just change the playstyle by a bit by maxing W instead of Q first, and by pushing in the lane much more frequently than I normally would. Now again, it is a pretty big deal, but I didn't think it would make such a big difference. And ever since then, Aurelion Sol has been on my list of champions that I personally think are extremely strong, but champions that I almost never see. He scales insanely well. There's a lot of items that synergize with his kit very well as well. So Rod of Ages, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, he has an AoE stun, his ultimate with his W works perfectly, and I truly believe he has an insanely strong presence in teamfights. However, the negatives of Aurelion Sol, he's not that good against assassins, because if someone can get right into his face, if his ultimate is on cooldown or he misses it or whatever, it can make things difficult. No built-in escapes in his kit, and he does have a unique playstyle. Not a champion you can easily pick up and just do well with. He will take a lot of games to understand, but it's definitely worth the time investment. But here are my recommended runes, items, and masteries when playing Aurelion Sol. Again, getting some kind of tanky AP type build is the best option, so Rylai's, Rod of Ages, things like that. Liandry's Torment also isn't all that bad, but that's only if they have a lot of tanks. But either way guys, there you have it, my top 5 sleeper OP mid lane champions, or underrated mid lane champions. Also, some people might be wondering, where is Pantheon? I didn't put him in this list just because I just made a video talking about him, so I thought it would be kind of boring if I talk about him in this video as well. But either way guys, if you did enjoy this video, then definitely hit that like button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't, and make sure to check out my other videos as well. And here are my favorite comments from the previous videos. Question: what kind of champion do you want to see in League of Legends next? But either way guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.